Welcome to DJNTV and Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. Now introducing the one and only Ben Stowe.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. Hey, we're back. It's Tuesday night, and it is Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. And tonight, Ben is with us, even though it is so cold, right where he's at right now, that the snot in his nose may still be frozen. We're not sure.
It's not. It's snot.
It's snot.
It's snot.
Oh.
No, it was. I think this morning I woke up, it was minus 18 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, is that just crazy? But it's the way it is here, the great upper Midwest.
I know. So,
I mean, you think about it, all the money we save on keeping our ice cream cold.
Honestly, I have a jug of iced tea sitting in my garage, just chilling.
And the sad part about it is, even though it's in the garage, it might still be forming ice on it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cold. I don't have my garage is heated, but I don't have the heater on.
Just insulated and the office go.
Yeah, it just stays a little bit warm from the house. But
yeah, I decided.
For those who don't know, those who live in warmer climates, our soda machines or pop machines, whatever your preference is, depending on our Coke machines, depending on what part of the country you live in, they're heated.
Yes. We have to have them heated. And of course they're cooled in the summer, because it does get up to like 35, 40 degrees in the summertime.
That's what blows people's minds is how you can go from minus 40 in the winter to, plus 90 or 100 in the summer. So, we're kind of like the moon. We've got this 130 degree, 140 degree temperature swing.
And that's why we're so hardy up here in the upper Midwest.
Fact is that there's a study that says that people who live in climates like that do tend to live longer.
And here we thought it was just because of lutefisk.
It's because we're preserved. We're just, can't decompose. We're frozen.
Yeah, it could be. You don't age as fast when, the blood is so thick in the wintertime. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, it makes your heart work harder, I suppose.
That it does. So tonight we've got some more questions and we've got more things to share with you out there. And at the end of tonight's show, again, if you have questions you'd like us to answer on the fly, please put those into the chat, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube with us tonight. Just put those into the bottom and we will hit those questions later this evening. Okay, so our very first, we're going to get right into it because our shows, we do this in segments now. So we're going to be jumping into our first segment, which is Ben's Joke of the Week. All right, Ben, this week's joke, what do you got for us?
Okay, so I reached out for some help last week, and these come from my friend Rocky. So thank you for that. He sent me some jokes. Let's see what we got here. So why is a DJ like a gynecologist? We're not going to read. Okay.
Yeah, maybe not.
So it's not that kind of show, Rocky.
Yeah, no.
So, what is a DJ's favorite sandwich?
A DJ's favorite sandwich?
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine. What is a DJ's favorite sandwich?
Club
sandwich. Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, that one's probably getting closer to Wiki.
Yeah, thank you, Rocky.
Yeah,
he sent me that one too. I already read that one though, so I'd had that one like week one. So,
yeah, that was week one. But I mean,
I say week one. This is like year 11.
Yeah,
week one of us doing jokes
of the new format.
Week one of me being funny after 30 years.
After 30 years,
apparently sucking at not being funny.
So we're
working our way up.
Work
to
in progress here.
Jokes. Yeah,
it's great. All right, let's jump to our first question of the night. Okay, so we have had a question come through, Ben. Somebody who is using passive speakers, and they've been wondering if upgrading to active speakers, and we'll define those in your answer with that. But they're wondering if they're making that change, if they're going to lose some sound quality, if they're going to lose some sound pressure, and what kind of ramifications making that change that they would notice. So, first off, explain to anyone who may not know what they're talking about, and then let's go with that.
Yeah, that's a good topic. So, a passive loudspeaker, at least in the sense of this description, is a loudspeaker that basically, it looks like a speaker. It's a box and it's, got a grill on the front. Inside, there's a component or a couple of components, usually at least two, maybe 3, low frequency, high frequency, whatever, and that's it. There might be a crossover, some type of a circuit that separates what goes to the high and the low, but it's a passive crossover network, and all of that is powered by an amplifier. So, meaning you have a power amp, and of course, back in our day, John, we had these old Class AB amplifiers that generated a ton of heat. Great for these cold days if you had an outdoor
Oh,
fall gig,
exactly.
just kind of huddle up around the sound rack.
Yep.
I wish that was a joke, but it's not.
It wasn't. No, they literally did. You
I
could feel
remember
heat
some
out there.
fall weddings where I was literally like,
Mm-hmm.
hunched over the amp rack. But anyway, so that meant that you had this outboard amplifier and you connected speaker cables from the amplifier to the speakers. And of course, back in those days, amplifiers didn't have any real processing in them either. So you would have an external crossover or some other type of device, active on that side. So that's what when we say a passive speaker, meaning it doesn't have any ability to amplify itself. It doesn't have a power supply, nothing like that inside. And of course, really everybody now is familiar with powered loudspeakers. They're very, very common, probably the most common thing, for DJs to use now. Certainly the column arrays and all of that, where you plug in a power cord and then you plug in a signal cord, an XLR or whatever, because inside there is an amplifier that lives inside the speaker box now, and that powers all the components. And that amplifier, in almost every example now, has some type of processing, crossover, EQ, things like that, inherent speaker settings. And this gives us sort of a series of trade-offs to consider here. So your question, they asked about would they lose any output or sound quality, and I think those are two very different questions.
Okay.
When we look at most active loudspeakers now, they probably sound better right out of the box. And I'm going to come back to why I said probably, but because you have all these components that are purpose selected to go with each other and put into the box and factory tuned. So we have the amplifier, we have the loudspeaker components, we have all the DSP. Some of these now have FIR. We can have brick wall crossovers and other, linear EQ filters and things like that that are now built in. And it's all set specifically for that box and those components. So we basically can just plug in an XLR from our controller or our mixer, and it's going to do a pretty good job. Now, of course, there's varying levels of good job, right? But anyway, it's going to have these things kind of right out of the box. In the realm of passive loudspeakers, I need to have an amplifier that is well suited for this speaker. And then I need to also have these software settings and these presets. And now most modern amplifiers, or many anyway, have this ability also. So I can kind of have that same function. I can go to this, and we do that a lot for installs. Installs are almost always passive loudspeakers. Lots of reasons why. That's a different show. But now I can take this amplifier, load these presets, basically tell the amplifier, hey, I'm using this speaker in this configuration. And the amplifier is like, great, got it. Got everything all set up because the factory has also done those settings there. So the trade-offs here come from the fact that these outboard amplifiers tend to be a lot beefier. They have maybe beefier power rails. They have beefier cooling systems. So they can run long and hard. And in order to make these active loudspeakers portable and affordable, so you'll buy them and carry them, those amplifiers have to get a little bit smaller, and some things have to give. So with that, I've got some pictures I'm going to share.
Sure.
Let me just pop this up here real quick. And I'm going to talk about kind of sort of bring this all to a point, I hope. If not, stay tuned. There's another segment. It'll probably be better. So no more jokes today.
He's
though.
confident. He's confident.
Yeah. So these are all passive loudspeakers that you see hanging in the air here. And these are obviously designed to run at a high volume for a long time. And in order to power all of those loudspeakers, if they were active, we'd have to send a lot of stuff up in the air, with them. So it's much easier to just run speaker cable up to these things and keep the amplifiers on the ground. Because we've got big power cords and big speaker cords and heavy amplifiers and big cooling rails and all that sort of stuff. And it's very easy to leave that on the ground.
What kind of a distance is it from where the amplifiers are to where those speakers are, approximately in that configuration that we're looking at?
Cables are typically about 100 feet or so.
Okay.
So, 100, 125, somewhere in that ballpark. Uh, so, but what I wanted to point out is the difference between these amps and these amps. These are all 2-channel amplifiers. Their replacements, the modern equivalents, moderner, are now 4-channel amps. So we have roughly the same number of amp channels in 2 racks here. Actually, we have exactly the same number of amp channels in 2 racks of 3 as we do over there with 3 racks of 4. Or if they were 3 per rack, it would be basically this. It takes up half as much space. And we can see that the both of them have the software and everything built in, like I was talking about. But now we've got touch screens and color screens and all kinds of things have improved. And this is in the touring world, of course. But that same stuff, and so I guess the question is there an active loudspeaker that will run against a system powered by these? Not really. I mean, there are a few at the really, really, really high end of, where you're looking at, $20,000 per speaker that are going to get in that realm. But in terms of the ability to produce power and cool themselves, these run off 3-phase 208 power. They've got massive fans in them. So, to the original person's question, this is kind of not really right in this regard. But this is a DJ show. So let's just check that and let's bring it back to the DJ realm.
Sure.
This same sort of stuff now lives inside speakers. We've got onboard DSPs, onboard menus. The amplifiers have gotten much better. The evidence is in the fact that, again, on the touring side, we can pack more stuff in a smaller space. Well, the same thing in the portable side, right? Same companies, the same leading companies that make that stuff. EV makes these amps. EV makes, great speakers. RCF has great stuff. They make this speaker. When you get into that upper tier of touring class, that precipitates down, right? And then the others that don't have touring lines try to kind of borrow and steal what they can, right? And even here, this is EV's entry level speaker, the lowest entry to the line, and you can see we've got an app and an onboard color display and all kinds of things. So to answer the question in 2 words, it depends.
Didn't see that one coming at all.
Yeah, no, never use that line.
Yeah.
But I think for DJs, if you are properly tuning, processing, and powering your passive speakers, that's still awesome, and I applaud it. I use a passive rig all the time in the touring realm. But the powered speakers now are so good. I certainly don't think you're taking any real step back. You're making some trade-offs, but you're adding a high level of simplicity, portability. I mean, I think that the ship has kind of sailed. But that is not to say that any side of this argument is wrong.
So if a person were doing live sound applications, obviously you can do live sound for a small, 3-piece band, doing, 200-person events, all the way up to things, the large concerts, what you're doing. Where would you have that time or that point where you'd say, you know what, we could use powered speakers for this type of an event, but we probably should go to, the bigger stuff, the concert stuff you use? Is there a point where you say that, 500 and over, I should go here instead of there? Or is there just no rule of thumb with that?
It's interesting because we often give clients the same choice because there is a point where, you could use a small powered rig and it's not going to do as well a job as that large passive production rig. There's sort of that middle ground, right? Where you're like, okay, there's 1,000 people or whatever. And, we can kind of do it with this, rig here and it's going to be kind of pushing it, right? We can do it here with this rig and that rig's just going to idle, I don't know if there's a magic number. I think if you've got a multi-day festival and you've got to cover thousands of people, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer, right? You want those amplifiers to have all the cooling ability they can because they're going to run hot and hard and long for several days, probably in warmer climates. Usually don't have festivals in winter, although Minnesota has a few.
We do, yeah, we have.
We don't worry too much about cooling there. But I don't know that there's a magic number for that. And I think it comes down to always saying having the right rig for the gig. and it comes down to ROI. You know, for example, if I wanted to compete for lower level regional events with the rig that I have, either I'm just showing off or I'm a terrible business person, because it's like driving a Ferrari to get groceries,
Sure.
Um, Similarly, if somebody who had a smaller portable rig, let's say like RCF HDL. I love RCF. They make great stuff. HDL is not a pro box. It's a consumer box. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. It just is what it is, right? It's great for what it's intended for. And we sell a lot of it, install a lot of it in churches and things like that, sell a lot of it to DJs, sell a lot of it to regional production guys. If you try to take something like an HDL 20A out and do pro tour shows, you will blow those things to smithereens. They just are not built for that. That's what they have GTX for. That's what they have TT for. RCF has boxes for that. And that's my point is, you're not picking on RCF. I love RCF, but I'm just saying that that's a common box for DJs to own. If you say, well, we're going to start getting into arena shows, it's not going to end very well. And I know this firsthand because we've sold those boxes and customers have tried to do that. And then they're like, yeah, I need a lot of parts. It's like, no, what you need is a rig designed to do what you're trying to do. So I think everything's got its place, right? We could make this even funnier and more extreme. We'll keep it in the EV family. I wouldn't take my rig and go try to use it where an Evolve 50 is appropriate.
Sure.
That's just stupid, right? And nobody would be impressed. I mean, they might be impressed, but how your wedding load in now involves a semi trailer and a loading dock. I mean, honestly, come on. Although I will say, we all love Kat, our marketing director, and we've always told her if she gets married, we're bringing in that rig. So, because it's going to be, let's be honest, John, she's got so many friends in the industry. It's going to be in an arena anyway. That'll be the most off the rails wedding dance you've ever seen. But, I mean, yeah, my daughter got married this summer and the DJ had some column arrays and that was perfect. For that, right? Right rig for the gig.
Yeah, exactly. We kind of always drift back to that.
You mentioned Kat gets married, we'll live stream that too. We'll have a live show for that.
Yeah, there probably would be. I could just see there's going to be a lot of social media connections with that.
People would tune in just to see it happen.
Yeah,
they're like, no, it didn't. Yeah,
it really did. It did. You mentioned temperature. Is one methodology, meaning the amplifiers like what you were showing with the Dynacord, are those better at keeping themselves cool than some of our powered speakers? Or
no doubt. Absolutely, because they've got big, heavy heat sinks in them that are designed to take that power away from the transistors. And they've got probably 4 or 6 fans inside of them. They've got fans on the front, fans in the back. They're moving a lot of air through there if they have to. They can really push air if they have to.
So on hotter days, they would be a better alternative for someone who needed that level of power.
Yeah, no doubt. But here again, I don't want somebody to be confused by this and say, okay, so I should get a TGX 20 for my wedding rigs.
No, we're talking big.
Call me, right? Great. Yeah, it's I think they're a $10,000 amplifier or something. So yeah, just give me a ring, we'll do that. But really, right? So.
Yeah, really. But just so people have kind of a grasp of where things fit into the spectrum, that these things are designed, as you said earlier, to basically be hammering for multiple days at a large festival with lots of people in front of them and to be able to do it day in and day out.
Yeah. An amp's actually closer to 15 grand, I guess. I don't know what they cost individually because we typically sell it by the rack. And I know that the rack with the power distribution and the network switches and everything in it's about 50 grand. So 53, I think. So anyway, yeah, I'm like, I don't even know what they cost individually because the people who are ordering those are buying like 4 racks worth, So it's not, you don't buy one of those usually, but anyway.
Crazy stuff. All right, let's jump to our second question for the night. All right, our final question for tonight, and then we'll take some questions in the chat room that you guys will have. Somebody's asking about underrated pieces of gear that DJs should have in their show, things that they may not think of, or something that everybody has but nobody thinks about that is time and time again a lifesaver that you've heard of. So what would be like 3 pieces of gear that would be considered underrated pieces that everyone should have?
I think I do have 3 here, but I'll tell you, and I have an honorable mention.
Ooh.
It's hard to say what 3. And I talked with some of my coworkers today, Kyle, of course, who everybody loves, and Meg, and others that, Meg works in our marketing department, but she was a DJ in Vegas and Arizona. So, obviously a lot of people in our company, even that, have these types of backgrounds. And we really had a hard time kind of coming up with like agreeing on, because it was just, there was like, oh, there's this and oh, there's that. So here's what I came up with. And in no particular order, and not necessarily any specific product, but one would be a backup controller, some way to continue to play music, right? And so this, of course, is the DJ2 Go2 Touch in stock at NLFX. Kyle suggested he loves the Prime Go Plus. He carries one of those with him. It's not his primary controller, but he keeps one with him. He said, it's battery powered. He told a story about a storm that knocked out the power. And he grabbed a couple e-verses in the Prime Go Plus and continued to rock. Got a nice tip. So I think a backup controller of some kind would be one. Another one, something that maybe people don't think about as gear, but if you don't have one of these, I'm pretty sure you're not a real DJ. And that is the Mote. The NLFX Mote, the mother of all testers. You really need one of these. And I cannot even tell you, it surprises me. I'm not shaming anybody that doesn't have one. I'm just saying you're not a real DJ.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you're not going to mince words, but
just stating the facts here. No, I'm just being tongue in cheek, right? I'm sort of teasing. But the fact is, you'd be amazed, John, how many times that I talk to a DJ in the course of a day and they've got a cable that they're trying to figure out, not even if it's good or bad, but, will it do what they want it to? And I'm like, do you have a cable tester? Like, no. Man, that would make this discussion so much easier. Like, plug one in each end, plug in each side, tell me what it says. So if you don't have a Mote, go to the NLFX website right now and buy a Mote.
Those, by the way,
$69.
Yep,
you put the link in. Thank you.
The links are in the chat.
You're on the ball.
Everything.
Because I didn't tell you what these products are going to be.
The website search is working so well. Give your team props on that. Things are popping up. Oh yeah, really nice.
Some people gave us some feedback, and it's a long process. It's a long grind. It's not an easy switch to flip, and we've been working on it literally for months, and we're going to continue to do so. So I'm really glad to hear you say that. Meg will be glad to hear you say that. Danny will be glad to hear you say that. Everybody else who's thinking, no, it's not that great. We know we're working on it. And thank you for your patience. Please bear with us because we are trying to make it better. So number 3, oh, by the way, and if you have our cables, you're less likely to need a Mote, although it's still really handy to tell you how cables are tested. So just throwing this in there, it's not one of my items, but you really should be using NLFX cables. And by the way, our cables, as you know, are made right here in the heartland of America. And many times people will post online, somebody will say, what cable should I get? And, about 100 people say NLFX cables. We actually screenshot those and print those out and give them to the techs that are making our cables. And they read every single comment, good and bad, although really aren't generally any bad ones. But just saying, if there were, they'd read those too. So thank you for saying that, those of you who do, and know that we read it. And I know that the reason you're sharing it is because you love the cables and you want other people to get them and love them like you do. But I'm just letting you know, we read those comments and we actually share them with the people who are literally making the cables.
Nice.
I printed it yesterday. I printed one out and walked it back there myself. And I was like, here, guys, look. And they smile and they like that. And, when you're just sitting on a bench making cables all day, you kind of forget about how important that is to the people that are using them. And so we make sure that they don't forget. All right. So my third sort of underrated piece of gear would be a wired mic. Lots and lots of DJs, almost every DJ I know now uses a wireless mic. Surprising number don't have a wired mic. And let me tell you, wireless mics can fail. They can drop out. They can break, whatever. There's a lot of things going on there. Circuits in the transmitter, circuits in the receiver. So a wired mic's a pretty good idea.
Mm-hmm.
They generally don't fail. But I have a great story. And by great story, I mean it's terrible. I have a great story. When I was DJing, I had a best man who had been heavily drinking and went to give the speech, got a little nervous, decided to show off, and tried to deep throat my wireless microphone and proceeded to hit the gag reflex and puke all over this mic. I mean, just like, of course, it was like that liquidy, because it was full of 2 gallons of alcohol. Just, Oh, I mean, if I wasn't so broke, I'd have just thrown that mic away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was so poor, I had to keep that mic. But my gosh, thank goodness I had, even then, a backup wired mic. And you know what? I didn't even look at that thing till the next day. I was like, I'm just gonna not even.
Yeah.
I went to the bar. They had one of those plastic pickle containers or whatever, and I put it in there and put the lid on to seal in the freshness. And but I didn't want to
so you could enjoy it the next day.
God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Then of course the next day I was taking the whole thing apart and cleaning it out. And did I mention, by the way, that we sell those hygienic mic covers, and they're not just for COVID, they're for lipstick and puke. So anyway, we have those in stock too. Anyway.
Yeah. I've used it. I think I used them more this past summer. Because whenever you have people who've been drinking and they started wanting to sing, because we did some karaoke, and it's amazing. It keeps some of that spit out of the microphone, and you don't have that.
They work so good. Yeah, we have
funk.
100 packs for like a few dollars. I don't even know what they are, but these things are, gosh, they're so cheap. I mean, and if you can't find them on our site, just message us because we've got lots in stock. And anyway, yeah, these hygienic mic covers existed before COVID for a reason. And they exist after COVID for a reason, because microphones are like toothbrushes. And my daughter's a dentist, so you can take that to the bank. That's disgusting. You wouldn't share a toothbrush with somebody, right? So anyway.
Yeah, no, not so much.
I actually, you know what I'd like to do when she's not so busy? It'd be fun to have her on this show, and we could talk about it from like a dental perspective. Like,
oh my God, we would never touch a microphone after somebody else touched it or talked into it.
You're probably right.
Yeah, we'd be like, ew.
So, yeah, wired mics and then hygienic mic covers. Yeah, anyway, if you go into the next show, we probably will have them there. You can stick them in your suitcase, whatever. Like I said, I think a bag of 100 is like $5 or something. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. That's not on my list. That's just something I'm just rambling. So here's my honorable mention. I think it's something that it doesn't get enough credit, honestly, and that is gaff tape. And I'll tell you what, there's good gaff tape, there's great gaff tape like ours, and then there's crappy gaff tape. And, I'm not even going to spend any time explaining it. The forums will explain it for you. But I don't know how I ever lived without gaff tape.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I quite literally fly some in a case with me everywhere I go now because I just cannot live without it anymore. So I don't just make gaff tape. I use it
too, yeah.
Like the old commercial.
I'm a customer, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a customer.
Not just the CEO, I'm a customer. Yeah.
And if you haven't tried our gaff tape, you need to, because using is believing. I don't want to turn this show into an infomercial, but I truly believe our products are among the best, if not the best, that you can buy. And the reason is simple, because we ask ourselves, why would anybody buy this?
Mm-hmm.
And we figure if we can't give you a reason, you probably don't have one. So there's my reason. We just simply made better stuff.
And it works.
And it works. And it keeps working.
Yes. Because I've been using it for a number of years, and there's times where we're using it and doing something, and I forget to take it off a stand or something, and it's there, and it comes off cleanly, a month later.
Our marketing team came up with the greatest thing. I think Tim gets the credit for this, but it's a board with flooring samples, like hardwood floor, carpet. I don't know what all's on there. Anyway, you get the idea, right? They went to the hardware store and they got different flooring samples and they put them on this board, and they have gaff tape strips on there. Mm-hmm. Some have been on there for years now. Mm. And, the idea is so that people can try our gaff tape out at trade shows and see how it really is better. Mm-hmm. you know, put your hands on it and go, wow, it comes off clean, tears easy.
Yep.
Look, no goo. But even better is we have this gaff that's been on there for years now, and you can peel it off and go, ta-da.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I told you, we've talked about this on the show, how when we were testing different formulas, different fabrics
I
and
like this
adhesives.
story. Yeah, this is good.
Yeah, you know this story,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Go ahead, please.
I put what probably amounted to about 100 feet of gaff tape or so on my wife's hardwood floors around Thanksgiving time, so that everybody, this was years ago, obviously, so that everybody be walking all over this gaff tape all the time on my wife's floors. Now, my name's on the house too. I live in the house, but it's not my floors; it's her floors. You know what I'm saying? Married guys, you with me? All right, yeah. Married women, am I wrong? I'm
Yeah.
not. Okay, right. So, anyway, that's how confident I was in our formula, because I knew that if there's goo on that floor, I was a dead man. But that really was the proving ground for that final formula, where we got to the point where we're like, okay, we think this is what we're going to make, a bazillion rolls for and set up for. And I was like, no, let's give it one last test. And I think we launched it in December.
So, and I've wondered this, and how did you pitch that to her?
Oh, I didn't even tell her. I just did it.
So don't ask for permission, ask for
No,
forgiveness.
she was busy, cooking and whatever. I was like,
She
like,
comes in there and
like,
it's like,
nothing. Don't worry about it.
what are you doing here? Are you trying to spell your name? If you are, you're not doing it right.
Yeah, she's a pretty special lady. I think she's
Yeah,
popped in on a few shows.
yeah, that she is. But I've often wondered, it's like, how did Ben spin that one to get to ever say, okay, that sounds like a good idea?
Yeah, he didn't.
He didn't. So that answers the question really quite quickly.
How in the world we've been married for? I mean, gosh, we've been together over 25
I think
years.
that's a testament to her patience, I believe, is the way we'd put that.
Probably. Also, her poor eyesight.
There's that. Okay. Questions in the chat. If you guys have got something you'd like us to tackle here before we wrap up here in a few minutes, please put that in the chat. First question coming to us from Facebook. We're wondering, what cables can the moat test?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked.
Exactly. We didn't even talk about too much of that. No, there's a whole list of those. So
basically, if we look at the moat, there are two sides of the tester, and you can stick anything on one side and anything on the other side, and it will test between those two things. So if for whatever reason you had a USB-A to PowerCon, it would test for continuity between those. But anyway, the connector types, I'll just read off the list here. 1/4 inch TS and TRS, 3.5 millimeter TS and TRS, PowerCon blue and gray, Speakon up to a 4 conductor, small DIN, XLR 3-pin, XLR 5-pin, USB-A, USB-B, USB micro, RJ45, all 8 positions plus shell, DIN 3-pin, DIN 5-pin 1, and DIN 5-pin 2, DIN 7-pin, DIN 8-pin, and HDMI. Oh yeah, and that was the trick on this one, was the HDMI, because it takes 20 conductors.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got 1 through 10, and then we got a button up here you can push, and that'll switch it over to 19 through 20.
Tell you if those wires are all good yet. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And somehow we crammed all that into this chassis. Also included 2 test probes, so you can use it just as a continuity tester too. Includes the test probes. Let's see, I think there's a picture of those on here. Yep, there you go. And a carry bag, and a user's manual. And also, since I knew you guys wouldn't read the manual anyway, even though I spent a whole weekend writing it, we put the instructions on the back of the moat, to at least a grid that shows how these things typically, work out, so that it would always be with you everywhere you go.
Mm-hmm.
All that for $69.
All of that
and
for
free shipping.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly.
I mean, and you add a roll of gaff tape, and it's a good Christmas present for yourself for February.
Yeah, I mean, it's still like the 20 days of Christmas.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It should be 25 days, right through the month of June. January is kind of a sad, slow month anyway. So let's just keep
cheer yourself up with a moat and some tape.
Nothing says I love you more than a moat and tape.
Nothing says I love me more than buying yourself. I mean, not me, but you.
Yeah, that.
It also
whatever.
says you love me, because every boat was built with love. But yeah, I think we stretched that to the breaking point.
Yeah, pretty much. Robin mentioned a much faster than a multimeter. What would be the difference between a moat and a multimeter?
Um, Basically that this has the connectors built on it,
Okay.
right? It really is kind of a continuity tester of sorts, and it can test multiple points at once. So let's say, for example, you have an XLR 3-pin to a 1/4 inch TS,
Okay.
where probably the tip goes to pin 2 and the sleeve goes to pins 1 and 3. The mode allows you a continuity tester. You can certainly do that one at a time. And I'm a big fan of multimeters, and I have about, I don't know, 20 of them, I think. And I literally carry one of those everywhere I go to, or
Sure.
2 or 3 sometimes. Um, but I think for the mode, it's a matter of convenience, and it's a matter of organization, and lining that up, identifying. You've got arrows on the front that show you, which side that row of LEDs corresponds to. So I think I've tried to really make a complicated way of explaining. The mode makes it simpler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And faster.
Simplicity.
And faster, as Robin said.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. So much faster. I mean, because, just let's take some of these smaller. First of all, you couldn't stick a multimeter probably in an HDMI connector. You couldn't even get in there. 3.5 millimeter. How could you do that? I mean, you could get the probes on there and set it on top and move them across. But what if you're trying to test a jack or something? I mean, yeah, it's just so much easier. RJ45. I mean, it's simplicity and speed, portability. Plus, the user's manual is pretty great. Did I mention that?
You did. You said there was this very humble young man who wrote it.
Yeah, he spent a whole weekend writing it.
Yeah, over the course of a weekend. Yes, so he took his
He was
time.
younger then too.
He took his
and
time.
Tim and Kat did the graphics. So
Oh,
yeah.
well, there you go. There you are. So another question coming here, and for Facebook, I'm going to have to paraphrase just a little bit. They were wondering, back to our active speaker, or our powered speaker, a 2,000 watt amplifier pushing a powered speaker, is that equivalent to a 2,000 watt standalone amplifier?
Listen, let me just say that would be almost as hard to compare as comparing two 2,000 watt amplifiers of any kind from any two devices, because the way that some of these amplifiers are rated and measured, I think some of these marketing departments should be in jail. I think what you really should do is go watch our show on Can 100 watts give you 1,000 watts, where we talk about how things like crest factor and whatnot play into this overall design. But of course, there are so many factors that go into that. I just don't know any way I can even begin to answer that. I think that as a broad and general rule, because there's some really crappy rack mount amplifiers too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's, and I see them with the same power ratings, and it's amazing. We just redid the amplifiers in an arena that we had done. And the only thing we did, you've been to this arena actually, but the only thing we changed was the amplifiers. And the arena staff was like, oh my gosh, the system sounds so much better, and we replaced one company's pro amplifiers with another company's pro amplifiers. And, we put in those Dynacord amps, and people went, wow, is this the same?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, same speakers. So there's so much inequitability, the quality of the amplifier circuit design, the quality of the components. I'm trying really hard not to name names, but there are just some amplifiers that just sound like trash.
Yeah, no, understandable. There's different, and maybe we should plan to do a night where we just dig into amplifiers, and talk about it.
I'd love to. I remember, it's NAMM time here soon, and thank goodness I'm not going. I'm so happy I'm not going to NAMM. But anyway, that's another topic. But I remember when I used to go, and there was a company that was selling low cost amplifiers, but were bragging about how indestructible these things were. I thought, well, that might be one feature, because I bet they don't sound very good. But not everybody can afford a $15,000 amplifier. I get that.
Yeah.
But don't expect a $300 amplifier to sound that good. That's all I'm saying. It's probably, and look, I started with cheaper gear than that. Not begrudging anybody, just saying there's a reason things cost different. It's not, Anyway, this company says, oh, you can't break this amp, you can't blow it up. And I said, really? I said, you send me one to try out? And they said, sure. And I said, I can do whatever I want to it. And they said, yeah. Well, I had a battery of tests designed that I was going to do a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of different things. And I think you've heard this story before, but it didn't make it past the first test. It blew up on the first test, which I was really disappointed because I had some horrific things planned and I had really kind of planned them in the order of least likely to most likely to destroy this thing. I was
And
going to destroy that amplifier. It was just a question of what it was
when?
going to
Yeah,
take.
yeah, yeah.
And I think some people remember years ago when, at the Mobile Beach show, I took an amplifier and I plugged an angle grinder into it and we fed a 60 hertz tone into the amplifier so it would replicate like AC current. And we shot sparks out in the audience and promptly got me banned from a casino, but it was worth it. That was a demonstration of how this amplifier can handle, that was a good amplifier, how it can handle back EMF and those sorts of things. I don't remember exactly what I did to this amplifier. But I think I plugged the one output into the other output. I just basically plugged a speaker cable between the two outputs and then cranked them both and decided to see which output would win. And one of them caught on fire before the other one did. But the whole thing was a smoldering wreck. And they were mad. They wanted me to pay for the amp. They're like, "You have to pay for that." And I was like, "No, you said this
Mm-hmm.
amp couldn't be destroyed." And they said, "Well, I said, can I do anything?" And they said, "Nobody's ever going to do that." I said, "I've literally seen it done. I've literally been called to sites where stuff like this has been done." We had
Yeah.
a church one time, not picking on churches, but we had a church one time that had two 100-watt amps. And they thought, well, if we connect one amp to the next amp, now we have 200 watts. No, now you have a fire. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway,
There is that. Yeah, that doesn't work that way.
so I guess the point is, I have seen on my amplifiers, I've literally seen where something happens with a cable, direct short, whatever, and the amp just goes into it. Just you hear a relay click out. The amp just
Yep.
literally disconnects the output. The relay clicks and it goes, "You have a problem."
Fix or yeah.
Yep, and it's like, "Oh, I got a short.
Mm-hmm.
Go check that out."
Yeah.
The stuff. You wouldn't believe the stuff that happens on tour. You know, some stagehands ripping around on a forklift 100 miles an hour, not paying attention, and jams it with the forks, and suddenly you got everything shorted to itself, and you're like, how?
I was drifting, dude.
Grab my toolbox.
Yeah. Yeah, bring the backpack. We got to fix it.
Yeah.
Another question here. Let's see. DJ Rook was asking about repairing the dents in a speaker grill. If you had any recommendations on how to take some of the dents out of the grill on your speaker.
Sounds like is it DJ Rook you said?
Yeah.
Sounds like they know how to party, getting dents out there.
Yeah.
Rowdy crowds. I love it. Yeah. So, thank you for watching, by the way. I mean, it depends on how severe they are, but what I've done, I've had to do this many times over the course of my career. I'll just generally take the grill off. Usually it's just, 8 or so screws on a speaker. Sometimes they're just wood screws. Other times they're machine screws, whatever. Sometimes they got, rubber backers and, anyway, get the grill off, put it on a hard, flat surface, concrete or really thick metal if you have it. More people have concrete than that, but you want something really nice and flat. Put like a towel down or something soft. And then, a lot of times you could put another towel or something on top, or cardboard, whatever, but you want something that you can hammer through and just try to tap that back out. Depending on how sharp that dent is, you may or may not get it out to where you really can't tell. You may just get it mostly flat again, and you'll still have a little bit of character in there, a little ripple. I have a few subwoofer grills like that, probably from the same forklift guy, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, that's one way you can do it. Sometimes that powder coat will flake off and you may have to do some paint or whatever. If it's really bad, you can usually order replacement grills, but I think most times you can get it good enough that nobody's really going to notice.
The tool, I've had to do that a couple of times myself, and the tool that I used was a rubber mallet. Because
sure.
It's
Absolutely.
a little bit larger head, and it helped keep some of that flaking from happening. Because if you get into a hammer, if you're going to do a hammer, then it's a little block of wood on top of it, and try to make that.
I forgot to mention, painted side always goes down.
Down, yeah,
yeah. Because usually the dent is going in anyway, right? It's going towards the inside. But yeah, that's a really good point. Block of wood, rubber mallet. In case you didn't know, John also has a hardware show. So
you've done a thing or two with that.
Yeah.
Once in a while.
And also remember, kids, everything's a hammer if you use it wrong enough.
That's true. Very true. And many of those things have been very effective hammers. That player, that can.
A side of a lineman's pliers, yeah, you can hammer the
Oh
snot
man,
out.
that thing's got lots of uses. What? That food is for lunch is hot. I just I won't burn my fingers. That'll be great. They have a blown cone in their subwoofer. Should they have it reconed or should they replace it? That's all I know.
Well, yes. If you haven't done reconing yourself and you don't have the setup and the knowledge to do it, I wouldn't recone my own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even recone my own stuff, and I could. I would send it in to get reconed if you do. Certainly nothing wrong with that, as long as it's OEM components, because you want the same voice coil and woofer material and the things that are designed to go with it. So have the proper stuff put in. Beware of fakes and counterfeits. My gosh, the internet. The internet. Anyway, so yeah, recones are just as good as new if they're done right. Otherwise, get a replacement. A lot of times I'll kind of leapfrog stuff too. I'll maybe buy a replacement so I got it back in service immediately, and then I'll send the other one out to be reconed. And then when it comes back, I'll just put it on the shelf, and now I got it back up.
You back up again. Yeah, nice. I think we've got time enough for one more question. On a past show, you guys showed a scorched speaker, which I think you might even have it in your background there somewhere.
I probably do.
Yeah. What causes that? What causes a scorched speaker?
This is a great topic we should do a show on. And I've done a lot of live presentations, and I've got some great graphics for it that show the logarithmic rise in temperature to achieve more decibels.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's logarithmic. So it's amazing how to gain a couple dB, we can have an increase of hundreds of degrees, Fahrenheit. But basically, let me go grab that real quick. Hang on.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do.
And then after we're done here tonight, you guys can jump out to djntv.com/chill. The chill room with the Tuesday Night Music Show will be going on here starting at the top of the hour. So it would be 10 o'clock Eastern. Brian and Jay and Howie's been in there. John, Eric, the whole crew will be in there and talking music. And you can turn your cameras off if you want to just listen. If you want to be part of the show and share some of your music thoughts with the topic of the night, you're more than welcome to do that. And then once you're done with that, then it's kind of a DJ hangout until the wee hours of the morning, depending upon what time zone you are. There have been times I've come in at 5 in the morning on Wednesday mornings, and they're still talking shop. So. And
then there's me, where we had to move my show to 8 o'clock because that was the wee hours of the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Our schedules kind of change here as we go along.
Can't stay up past 8 o'clock. All right. So first I got to say, so I do have it here. But living in the cone from my friend Stephen Dale is an alien, and my rubber chicken from my dear friend Alan Trisler, who I'll just say, everybody please keep Alan in your thoughts and prayers today. Won't say why, but he could really use them. So anyway, the rubber chicken. So this is that scorched speaker, and if you say, well, I don't see the difference. Well, this was probably like really shiny, like a new penny, really shiny, bright copper when it was new. And now it is very much not. And you can see that it really is scorched kind of black. So the obvious answer is what causes that is heat. What causes the heat? Well, power, but also continuous power, lack of dynamic range. Again, getting these speakers very hot as we try to get a little bit louder, a little bit louder, a little bit louder. And because the rise in volume is logarithmic, as we just talked about with the heat, that really makes sense. They go hand in hand, right? Every time we double the power, we gain 3 dB. Or another way to say that is, in order to gain 3 dB, we must double the power.
Sure.
So if I'm at 100 dB and I want to get to 103 dB and I'm at 1,000 watts of amplifier power, now I need to go to 2,000 watts. Just to get that 3 dB more. And that has a direct correlation to the increase in heat. And that is really the number one killer of loudspeakers. far more than, just over excursion or, as my good friend Ethan Wetzel says, there's two reasons a loudspeaker dies: help I can't move and help I'm on fire, and this falls very much under the help I'm on fire side of things.
So is there a difference between, and it was, but a lower amount of wattage going into it that is considered not clean, where say the signal came into the amplifier that was maybe a clipped signal, and now the amplifier could be putting out that at a lower wattage and still do damage to the speaker compared to saying a lot of power?
Because for a lot of reasons, but one of the ways that these loudspeakers cool themselves is their movement. And when we start getting into distorted signals, things that are clipped or squared, we have more DC-like movements. We don't have that cooling activity. We have more prolonged periods of that energy present in the voice coil. And inherently audio is an alternating signal, right? And that voice coil is moving all the time to create these sound waves. It pushes air and the mechanical action propagates an acoustic sound wave in the air. So definitely distorted signals can be damaging. Clipped signals can be devastating. That's stuff you want to avoid for lots of reasons.
Yeah, and I think we'll plan to talk. We should dig into this the external amp and then the squirt speakers.
I'd love to say we'll get somebody to send us an amplifier, but I don't think they will.
Yeah,
anymore.
Probably not. No, not especially after you just admitted what you did.
Who I bet would, though? The really good amplifier companies, they're not like PowerSoft or Dynacord. They do it because they know their amp's gonna be fun.
Yeah, they've got the tools.
Try it. Let's see what happens. And we may have to. I don't have 208 power in my house here, but we may have to have a special show sometime, someplace where we'll do some horrific things to amplifiers and show you what they can take and what they can't take.
Why are those guys building a bunker? Well, you see, we're testing an amplifier to see what it can do, and you never know.
Man, I got to tell you, that's one of the things I love so much about my career. Obviously I started, building stuff out of coffee cans and whatever, and it was pretty sketchy. And, I learned as I went, just like our viewers, we've all had this journey of learning. And one of the things that makes me so giddy and I've enjoyed so much, you might think it's, working with these huge tour class rigs and playing large venues with, household names. Nah, that's cool and all. That's just, but nah. What's really cool is when I get to test stuff behind bulletproof glass. And I'm like, this could go really, I should have been a Mythbuster. Right?
This could go sideways so many ways. This is fabulous.
Yeah, when we're wearing protective suits and everything, because whatever we're going to do could, like the time that I electrocuted Bill Herman, that is what you can see my giddy childish smile.
There was that, yes.
So great when things explode.
And the cackle, from the stage, and it wasn't, Bill's gyrating in pain. It was the cackle from the guy in that lab coat.
It was more of a giggle than a cackle.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Evil.
I was in the audience watching very intently.
My favorite comment, I've said this before, but my favorite comment, and I think the YouTube clip is still out there on one of our shows. You can go watch the show, is somebody yells from the audience and you can hear it. They yelled, "He really did it."
Yes, that was
and I love Bill Herman, and I mean that. I absolutely love that man, but I'm not sorry, not even the least. I just, he's such a talented guy, and he's, he's taught me so much from his side of the world. I'm like, well, now let me teach you something from my side of the world.
And for those wondering, this is one of the reasons why, after that happened, somebody said, Bill, just go walk it off, and that's why he's been walking.
Yeah, he's still walking.
He's still walking.
How many volts did he get? We'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know. But
220, 221.
Somewhere there. Yeah, it was a good night. All right, thank you guys for being with us tonight. Again, if you're in the area where you can get to the chat, all those links for everything we talked about tonight are in the chat. You can go grab those and check out the different pieces of gear we were talking about this evening. And, of course, the DJNTV.com/chill will be up here in just a few minutes with the guys having some fun and talking music tonight. And we'll be back, I think, next week. And then I think we've got... I don't know. Just keep watching on the emails, and we'll have our weekly schedule there. Because we've got a week.
I thought you're doing shows from airports here soon.
Yeah, we're going to be with the travel. We'll figure that out. So you guys have a great night, and we'll catch you next time. Good night, everybody.